Tales of Roleplay. This is a segment I wanted to find some way to share, me talking about my experiences in Dungeons & Dragons. Before I talk about the game I'm in at present, I rummaged around an old school folder of mine, some extra left from high school I never used. I'm sure this thing's like been with me for at least half a lifetime now. Grabbed what I could of all my old character sheets, and I'm using that same folder to hold stuff I'm currently using with my campaign I'm playing as well. But all stories about my overall experiences start with the beginning. I'm here to talk about my very first examples of playing the game. Roll back the clock some 30-some years ago. Older brother, real chill most of the time. Through later years of him at college in a different part of the East Coast tri-states with that combination, I can probably count the amount of arguments, like yelling back and forth, that I've had with the guy on one hand. Seriously. Every one of them I can look back and go, yeah, babby Rinoa lacked maturity back then. Yeah, who has two thumbs and got his head stuck in between a second floor banister of steps at one point when he was a kid? This motherfucker here.
Dumbass!
I did a video talking about my dad a bit on Father's Day years back, but for a rock of a human being, that's my older brother for sure. Proven here with still me being, I don't remember how young I was. If I was just being curious, looking over my brother at a table with all the D&D books in his hand, just going, hey, what's up here? Or if he was just like, hey, you like ninjas, let's come check this out with me. You want to be a ninja? Because I was like the Ninja Turtles era at the time, the 80s and all that stuff like that. Like, when ninjas ruled all things, media-wise. Still kind of do, more or less in a way. Like the amount of, like, there was like that one video on YouTube where it's like all the Azuna drops throughout in fighting games, and then it like later on it was like, here's all the Azuna drops in games that aren't fighting games, and it's just, I forget where I found that. I think it's Chaos Productions Inc. or something like that. I follow a lot of channels and see a lot of things. I can't remember where everything is, but I think it's that. But if you like fighting game stuff, check that YouTube channel out, Chaos Productions Inc. Incorporated. But yeah, it was like, you like ninjas? Let's check this out. And I was so out of my depth with this. Just a small taste. It wasn't like build your character up. It's just like make a party of 4, get weapons. You know, no role playing. Just a taste of the combat itself. I did really badly on this. I think I lost my party twice just because my brother like, all right, let's run it back and try this again. And Babby me just kind of like, nah, I don't want to play it anymore. That was just the inkling. Now, a little later on to the real deal. My first ever character by myself with like an actual party of my brother's friends just inviting me over, trying to see if I want to. He brought me in on his passions. He didn't have to. Like, as much talking said about my brother, he's the one who got me. He's my inkling. He's responsible for like the RPG thing I have now. I gotta credit him for that. Like, when later on me like started to, okay, I'm starting to realize the RPGs. Like, I watched him play and win NES Faxana do. I watched him do better than me in Iron Tank, which is kind of like the story mode tank like RPG. Not really RPG, but built like one kind of where there was like story and there was like it was like just one big level to go through. He did the Super Nintendo Shadowrun while I was still slumming it with games like the Ranma 1/2. I was still in the fighting games, kind of. But yeah, later on you start to, okay, RPGs like this. I'm like, oh, okay. Kind of waking a sleeping giant that I didn't know I had for like that genre of games. But yeah, my first ever character sheet full on for this segment was I don't have the particular character sheet for anymore. This was just, I think, just an introduction just to get me in here, but I remember the class. It was a wizard. I think I even made it even past like first or second level. You know, I was the new guy, the younger brother getting brought in for a quick campaign because they were running this long months, maybe a year-long campaign before then that I would get into later, where the other players were like maybe double digits, some of them. But yeah, this is my first outing. I can't remember even the wizard's name. I do remember the class. Like I said, I ran a wizard. I remember had like maybe a fight or two. It's like, okay, trying to let me in. Like, okay, wizard's not the super most powerful. You do kind of hang back a little bit. You only get like a magic missile with like one finger. I think that's how 2E worked back then. Yeah, by the way. Yeah, one finger for like, and then by like every 2 levels past that, you add another finger, and it's like, oh, you can shoot 2 magic missiles now. I think it works different. I think I had a conversation with my current one. It's like, oh, it works differently now. Oh, they jumped 3 whole E's from this. So I'm like, oh, imagine my confusion. But yeah, magic missile, sleep to put down enemies and thin the numbers game. And usually my brother's first rule of D&D, it might be a first rule in general. If you don't know what you're running, if you don't know what to run as a character or class, go human fighter. Start small, basic, work up from there. But someone else I think went fighter, and I'm like, okay, well, you might need a magic guide and cover bases. Because that's what it's all about. That's what Final Fantasy 1 teaches. It's like, oh, you can be a party of like the same character or a bunch of these. Like cover every base. You start to think outside the box a little bit. I did a little better now that I only had to worry about myself instead of like 4 characters, one of which had like a thrown weapon, but it's like, oh, you only have the one. I gotta go run back and go get it. I'm like, oh, for real? Damn. And I got murdered by street bandits. Must have been like, again, single-digit HP humans, and I think that was about the same age myself at the time. If it was double digits, it couldn't have been higher than 10, which, if it was double digits for my age, it probably couldn't have been any higher than 10. Maybe younger than that, even. But this didn't last too long either. A good chunk of our party, I remember, happened upon either a graveyard or something that brought out ghast ghouls. Some undead, which can paralyze with a touch or a sight or something like that. It paralyzed like 2 of us and downed 1 of our, I think it's 4 or 5 of us doing parties. Well, my brother was DM, so it was like 6 of us. But yeah, they just ate him up until, I think 1 just got eaten up to like -10, and then I was like dead. This is 2E again. I remember as far back as HP for that. 0 is you're down, but you're not dead. Prone, I think, is the term for it. And I think there's even like some classes, situations, or like levels where you're like, oh, if you're like a barbarian, you can just like Little Mac before he gets knocked out, like the Wii Punch Out. You just like take that, grit your teeth, tough it out. It's like, oh, I ain't down yet. Get like a second wind kind of, so you can fight at 0. So long as you don't take another hit and go down again, because that time you're like down. But yeah, -10, your character is dead. And only like high level spells, I think, fixes that someone from like super dead, like Wish or something like that, or Resurrection even. But that was, I think it was like a week or 2-week adventure to acclimate the new guy. Here's what you can expect. One other party member was like, hey, book it and live. Like, oh, which reluctantly I did. Like, this was from my point of view, this was my first real instance of RPG outside the consoles at the time. The solo inkling I did with bandits, I didn't want to lose this character too. This seemed a little more finale. Right away, older brother just, again, showing me his passion for this. Like, the first fight he gave me to do for, like, he's still young, like, let him learn from his mistakes, it's still just him and whatever. Like, this? No, there's a little more finality to it this time. I didn't want to lose my character. This is just the inkling loss all over again. But I remember the ones who died had to do, like, new character sheets. We might have did, like, a fight or 2 past that. I don't remember it too much. But, yeah, that was a bit of a cold slap in the face I think I needed looking back. This isn't Saturday morning cartoons. This is Monday morning school in Philadelphia. You ain't always gonna win. You gotta make the effort to. And even then, the dice rolls don't favor you winning, even if the effort to is there. That's a story for next time. But yeah, that's my first inkling and my first like actual real outing in Dungeons and Dragons 2. Yeah, with the green back here, this background here. But yeah, tragedy would strike again for once again. But that's next time on Tales of Roleplay. Brian Blessed! Man alive, what's wrong with beef tomato?